The blues is my business, and business is good. James Etta Hawkins, born in 1938 to a 14-year-old mother who wasn't interested in children and a father who had long since disappeared, knew everything there was to know about the blues. She once described her childhood as a series of one-night stands. She was continually passed from one relative to another. The only connective tissue in her life was music. She was a gospel choir prodigy at age 5. By age 15, her vocal trio held the number 2 spot on the R&B charts with a salaciously raucous tune titled "Roll With Me, Henry." By age 16, she was touring with Little Richard. Etta James, as she came to be known, often lived unwisely and sometimes loved unwisely. She abused her body almost constantly. The men in her life, managers, singers, and family members alike, frequently took advantage of her, musically, financially, and sexually. Etta's response to the chaos was to sing about her life with a fierceness and honesty that never failed her. She was a blues singer, rightly lauded as the best ever. Her incomparable voice was silenced by death this week, but her music will never stop. In 1976, after a withering battle with heroin addiction, Etta James launched a comeback with an album titled "The 7-Year Itch." The most telling song on the album captures the paradox of Etta James, the power of her fierce spirit and the aimlessness of her fragile soul. The song is titled "I Got the Will." She sings, "Let me tell you now what my mama told me. The old saying is, if there's a will, girl, there's got to be a way now. Mama, I got the will, but I can't find my way. Oh no. This is what you told me now. You got the will, girl. You got the power now. You got everything. Good gracious Lord, have mercy. I got the will, but I can't find my way. I got the will now. I can't find my way now. I got the power now. I got the will now. Can't find my way now, mama, mama. I got the will now. I can't find my way now." Sometimes in life we have the will, Etta says, but we can't find the way. Other times, presumably, we know the way, but we can't seem to muster the will. In either case, getting from where we are to someplace better is our biggest challenge in life. How do we get from here to there? How do we find both the will and the way? At the start of each new year, literary agent John Brockman poses a provocative question to more than 100 leading scientists and science writers and asks them to respond. Brockman posts the results on his website, edge.org. In years past, he asked questions like, one year, "What do you believe is true even though you can't prove it?" Another year, "What are you optimistic about?" Or, "What have you changed your mind about?" Or, "What is your dangerous idea?" This year, Brockman's question was this: what is your favorite deep, elegant, or beautiful explanation? In other words, he went on to say, what deep puzzle in the universe or in human life has been unexpectedly solved by applying a simple and elegant principle? The answers include some principles you would expect, such as relativity theory and quantum mechanics. Granted, these might not seem simple to you and me, but to a scientist, these comprehensive explanations of the universe in its largest and smallest dimensions are elegantly simple and deeply satisfying. Other responses seem almost too obvious to qualify. For example, everything that survives, survives. Or this, everything is the way it is because it got that way. Oh, really? My dad, who is not a scientist, would sometimes give a similar answer to my incessant questions about why this and why that. He'd say, just because. My favorite answer among this year's crop comes from Richard Thaler, a professor of behavioral economics at the University of Chicago Graduate School of Business. He's also co-author of the recent book, Nudge. What's his deep, elegant, and beautiful explanation? Commitment. He says, it's a fundamental principle of economics that a person is always better off if they have more alternatives to choose from. But this principle is wrong. There are cases when I can make myself better off by restricting my future choices and committing myself to a specific course of action. Thaler explains that the idea of commitment as a strategy is an ancient one. Odysseus famously had his crew tie him to the mast so he could listen to the siren's song without falling into the temptation to steer the ship into the rocks. And he committed his crew not to listen by filling their ears with wax. Another classic is Cortez's decision to burn his ships upon arriving in South America, thus removing retreat as one of the options his crew could consider. Thaler goes on to focus on this aspect of commitment, which has fascinated diplomats and game theorists for decades. A commitment can often be taken back. Nobel laureate Thomas Schelling grappled with this issue in his famous 1956 essay on bargaining. Lots of thorny issues can be solved between nations negotiating a truce, for example, or companies negotiating a deal, only if both parties credibly commit themselves to the bargaining process, no matter the outcome. But how can I convince you that I will stay engaged if my strategy is to bail out if I don't win the upper hand? Besides, the opposite is also true. You know that I know that you might bail out too. Now, this conundrum may be a concern for diplomats and deal makers, but it's not the elegant part of Thaler's response. Here's the simple part of the truth. Things get done in this world because someone makes a commitment to do them. As explanations go, they don't get much more elegant than this. If you have the will to commit yourself, you can find your way in life. As the 20th century American poet Theodore Roethke says, in the title poem from his Pulitzer Prize-winning volume, The Waking, I learn by going where I have to go.